I'm Ryan Eakin, and this is episode 3 of View from the Pits, the official podcast of the Maple Leafs, sponsored by TD Canada Trust. In this episode, I speak to Damon Topolie, who was recently promoted to Vice President of Baseball Operations, and Roger Lajoie, who returns to the team as Vice President of Business Operations. Here it is. Damon, Roger, thanks for coming on today, guys. I appreciate it.
Great to be here, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, as we can see, we got Damon, we got Roger. Damon, I have to ask you first, bringing Roger back to the Maple Leafs, what went into that decision? How did that go about happening?
It's a no-brainer. Like I said, we wanted to start progressing. I think I said this to you before. We wanted to move the franchise in a new direction, more modern direction, and some things like social media, the website, that thing. We needed to modernize the franchise, and the first person that came to mind was Roger, and you know, having his presence around and just his knowledge of that particular area. That's what he does for a living. It's you know, his resume speaks for itself. So, and the fact that he was with the team for 30 years it's a double bonus, right? It's a big win for this franchise, and to have him back and him accepting to come back is awesome for this franchise.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that because you said, okay, great. You know, I got this guy in mind. You know, I know him for all these years. It's great. But originally, did you think it was a possibility, or how did you go about trying to bring him back to the team?
Well, I missed him, to be honest with you. He was the friendliest scorekeeper in the league. That's why I have so many hits. No, I'm just joking. But I just wanted to have a conversation with him and see where he was at, because I know he's kind of everywhere, to be honest with you. You know, he's in Ottawa, he could be in Toronto, he could be in Oshawa, but just to get a feel of what he wanted to do and where he was going, and if he'd be interested in even coming back, was the conversation. And the fact that he, you know, was very positive about where the franchise should go, and he was already on the same page as what we wanted to do. So he had these thoughts that we needed to modernize the franchise and move in a new direction, and that was key to that conversation. And it was him graciously accepting to come back was a big win for the franchise.
Yeah, and Roger, asking you now, coming back to the team, when Damon reached out to you, were you surprised? You know, was it maybe something you're kind of hoping for? Or just take me through that process of when Damon first reached out to you.
Well, first of all, it's 35 years.
Oh, sorry.
Second of all, I'm not the friendliest scorekeeper in the intercounty. In fact, I'm not a friendly scorekeeper at all. But no, just kidding. I was very happy when Damon reached out, Ryan. You know, my history with the team goes back a long time. I started in 1979 as the statistician and PA announcer, and I wound up, you know, taking that position when I was a second-year university student at Ryerson University. And usually people who take those kind of positions stay a couple of years or even a season and move on. I wound up staying for 35 years till 2013. My deep affection for Jack's late wife, Lynn, is very well known. Still miss her to this day. She passed away in 2008. And Jack's a one-of-a-kind icon. And so, you know, you don't want to leave. And I only really left in 2013 because, as Damon alluded to, I just got so busy with other ventures, I just couldn't keep it going. And I felt that, you know, the organization certainly was in good hands, and there were some very good people who filled the roles I was filling afterwards. But when Jack passed away, Damon reached out. I think it was Damon a couple of weeks later, and we had a nice conversation. And I'm delighted to be back. Ryan, there was one, you cannot replace Jack Dominico. He is irreplaceable. Another thing you can't replace is the way he ran the franchise in Toronto. Nobody else is capable of doing that. And I don't say that as a negative thing. All that means is that it has to be modernized. It has to be brought more into what business is about in 2022. Only Jack could make that team a success operating the way he was. So I want this team to succeed. I don't want the Leafs to go away. I don't want the intercounty to go away. So if you can't replace Jack Dominico, what's the solution? Well, you try to do it as a team with Damon, Ty Crawford, who's been around a lot of years. I'm very excited to help take this team into a next level. And ultimately, we'll see where it goes. And I'm not going to get into the whole semantics of the whole future, as Damon and I have made it quite clear. This right now is about the 2022 season, and we're going to operate the team the best we can. And I'm delighted to be back. And it was was a short, well, it wasn't a short conversation. It was a short decision to say, sure, I'm happy to come back. And here we go, and we're talking about it. So let's play ball, okay?
Yeah, and I'm going to get into, moving forward and talking about the 2022 season and beyond. But just the last 9 years, you mentioned that, you last were with Maple Leafs back in 2012, maybe 2013. Just what have you been up to the last 8-9 years?
We don't have time in that podcast to go through that, Ryan. I have always, when I say I was involved with the Leafs for the 35 years, right out of Ryerson, right out of the way, I started taking other jobs. I got a job as a sports writer at the Etobicoke Gazette. So while I was working for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the summer, I was building my career in a variety of different ways. And in the last 9 years, my career has grown a great deal on the sports admin side. For 2.5 of those years, I was the vice president of the Belleville Senators of the American Hockey League. I helped found that franchise and spent 2.5 years there building it up. I am now in Ottawa. I'm the director of marketing of the Ottawa Senators. So I spend most of my time in Ottawa. I'm also an author. I'm still on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, have a regular radio show. So I stay very active in a lot of business in the sports world. And Ryan, basically 2013, I went to Belleville in 2016, but I was extremely busy in those years, and I just didn't have time to dedicate it. Now I do. It's going to take a lot of juggling of a schedule to make sure I have the time to do it. But now I have the time to do it, and I've been really away from the league for 9 years. I have not really, and I'm quite transparent about this. I haven't spent a lot of time or attention following the Intercounty Baseball League. But I know the history of this league, Ryan. I know how important it is to have a franchise in Toronto, and I know how important it is to keep it going. So I'm going to make the time, along with Damon and Ty, to ensure this thing works out very well. I've had a long and very terrific career in sports. I'm very delighted by it, but I'm especially happy that to be back to help out the Maple Leafs, because 35 years ago, or now it's not 35 years ago, it's actually 42 years ago, 43 years ago, I'm just a second-year student. And I owe a lot to Jack and Lynn giving me the opportunity to start and build my career here. So here I am back, and I'm delighted to be back. I wrote the book that we're going to be putting out this year on the Leafs. And one of the lines I used, that Jack and Lynn have now passed the torch. This is a Ma and Pa operation, and Ma and Pa are no longer here. Well, they've passed the torch. We're not going to drop it. We're going to make sure baseball's here. So that's why I came back.
And to make sure baseball stays in Toronto and in the IBL, there's a lot that has to happen in terms of this franchise for the next 2-3 seasons, as you mentioned, beginning here in 2022. Without getting into too much details, because again, it's still early, what's some of the biggest changes that you want to see perhaps this upcoming season?
Well, there's a lot of them. And you mentioned the next 2 or 3 years again, and I'm prepared to be involved here as long as it takes to stabilize this and make sure it's going. So don't get, this isn't just a 1-year thing, but there's a lot of work to do in the next 2-3 months to make sure it's modernized. First of all, we need to update our communication methods with a younger generation of audience. Again, Jack was the king of getting the supplement in the Toronto Sun and getting the programs out. And back in the day, calling up the media and getting stuff on, nobody was better than Jack. And while there is some degree of importance in some of that moving forward, it is now all about being more interactive on social media. Fine job you're doing on this podcast, having somebody like you who's a young, aggressive student who can really help this program grow. We have to start taking credit cards in the ballpark. We have to start and I say that, and I'm sure some people who aren't familiar with the Intercounty are probably going, what do you mean you don't take credit cards? The Toronto Maple Leafs have never accepted a credit card for a payment ever for anything. So that's going to change. We're going to have an online store. We need to set that up. We need to come up with different products, Ryan, to do. So instead of the traditional program, we're going to have a hardcover book, which we will sell. We will sell sponsorships. We don't sell tickets at the pits, as people who follow the Intercounty know we can't. So how do you generate some of that? We're going to ask fans to become supporters of the team. And, for a fee, get a membership card, get special merchandise. So all that kind of stuff to modernize and make it a great tradition, still be able to continue, is what we're going to do. And it's all business side. The actual, Christie Pits and coming to the ballpark for free isn't going to change. But it's basically just modernizing, getting into, want to say 2022. How about 1992, to be honest with you? And we'll be ready for that. So basically, it's modernizing the business structure, both on social media, website, communications, how we talk to people, and how we merchandise and promote our product.
And Damon, I want to kind of ask you next because we've talked the last 3 or 4 months, and you've been always saying this new idea. I've been wanting to do this for quite some time, haven't been able to because I got to focus on baseball. I have to do this, I have to do that. Just how important is it to surround yourself with people like Roger, Ty, and others to help really move this franchise forward?
Well, you got to include yourself on that too. And like Roger said, that it's basically your generation that we need to attract. And we saw that last year at Christie Pitts, that we needed to head in this direction. The age of the fan base last summer was amazing. I haven't seen, you call them the young somethings or the hipsters, whatever that generation you want to call, they were filling up Christie Pitts. Like I hadn't seen the Hill that full probably since 2007, that championship game, Roger. Like
Yeah,
it was,
Game 7.
yeah, that was like, it was full, and we had that home field advantage back, and that really, like I said to you before, we needed to turn a corner. That really brought it to attention that we need to attract these people to the park, and we need to make them aware that there is really good baseball being played at Christie Pitts.
Right. And so when Jack passed away, I think a lot of people are saying, what's the future of this franchise? Perhaps as early as 2022, is this team even going to play this season? Do you kind of look at it though as there's momentum building with this franchise? Because as you mentioned last season, it seemed like, yeah, the on-field product was great, but just bringing people in, younger people, around my age, do you kind of feel like there's a tide turning with this franchise in the sense that this team has a great opportunity to really move forward and, have that new demographic of, guys going to the pits every Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, and that's what we use this term in business a lot. We've had to the last couple of years to pivot, and I think we're just pivoting in the right direction. And we're calling it modernizing, but we, like I said to you before, we kind of needed to do this a little sooner. But hey, we're doing it now, and this is where we're going. And I think look at what we're doing right now. We're doing a podcast, and these are all big strides for us, and right. We're heading in the right direction.
And Roger, when it comes to, obviously, we're talking a lot about the future, but going back a bit, you were with the Maple Leafs for all those years. What are some of I know we've had a lot of great memories, just seeing stuff happen on the field, stuff behind the scenes. What have been some of your favorite moments of being a Maple Leaf for the last 35, 40 years?
Well, Ryan, it's one of the things you talk about at the end of the day. We're talking about business. We're talking about marketing, the promotions. It's important. But, and I say this in Ottawa all the time, it's the games, the players, guys like Damon. He referred to 2007. That 2007 series against the Brantford Red Sox was some of the best baseball I have ever seen. And I've seen a ton of baseball. One of my other roles is official scorer of the Toronto Blue Jays. So I don't throw that around. I'm not one of these guys that's just saying, oh, no, this is really great stuff. Trust me, this is really great stuff. I still wear, well, we can't see it here too much on the screen because of my background, but this is my intercounty championship ring that I got from Jack just shortly before I left the organization. And it's got my name on it, 700 games, and the 7 years of championship teams, 82, 85, 88, 95, 99, 02, 07, that I was around for. And it's got the Leaf logo. It's really a beautiful ring. It's a little bigger than the championship ones that the team has done in the past, but it's the winning. And not just the winning, but the memories of seeing some of these great players who played in this league. I have seen some absolutely fantastic baseball games. Now, I got stories. Jack comes in the press box and he's yelling at me. And then the one night the lights went out and the police came. I got 500 of those stories. Maybe we can talk about them at some other time. But from the time I started as a second-year student to today, I saw the value. And Lynn, rest her soul, always said this. And I remember a conversation I had with her shortly before she passed. She just said, I said, Lynn, one thing that hasn't changed, it's kind of cool. She goes, yeah, you know what it is? Here's Toronto, the biggest city in Canada. What's it doing with a franchise in the Intercounty Baseball League? Toronto doesn't support high school sports. It doesn't support college sports, doesn't support minor sports. The Marlies, the Steelheads, all these teams struggle to maintain, and the ownership keeps changing. How is it possible that for 53 years, without the ability to sell tickets, that a team has survived in the intercounty baseball league, Jack and Lynn. So now we got to find a way to do that. So my memories really, Ryan, like I said, I have many, many great memories of sitting in the press box with Lynn and connecting with Jack and all the fun and the laughs and everything else. It's the quality of baseball and it being a part, frankly, of 7 championship teams. And I don't want to start ripping Damon on this right out of the bat, but I'm going to tell you, one of the reasons I'm back here is I want another championship. I want the team to win again. I'm not, it's 15 years between championships. 15 years between championships is too long. And, so it's the quality of competition. It's the games. I scored a no-hitter in this league. 7 championships, 19 pennants in the 35 years I was with the team. 19. And we didn't win one in the last, 6 years, Dan. 07. Yeah, 6 years that I was here. So I had 19 pennants in 29 years with this team. And we want to restore that. And I know we're just coming off as a league, 6 straight championships for Brantford, 6 straight for Barrie. You ask them, their memories are going to be, we were down 3-2 in the series and then to get into the 4th. They've all got stories. So do I. So it's a quality of baseball, Ryan. It isn't, yes, the memories are great and the nights at Christie Pitts and the poeticness of just having the team. But boy, if you're going to go to all this bother, to organize a team and set it up and do all this work on the business side, a lot more fun when you win. So my memories are basically of watching great players like Damon. He's one of them, one of the top 100 in the intercounty's history, win some baseball games. And I hope we're able to provide that for at least this season and then many, many years to come, because it's a quality of baseball is my number one memory.
Absolutely. And Damon, that kind of leads me to my next question. How much can, this business stuff, this social media stuff help in terms of, like, when you talk to your players, some players I'm sure told you, like, I don't know what the IBL is. I don't know what the IBL Maple Leafs are. Just how much can this stuff help with, I guess, like bringing players in?
Oh, it's 100% helps with recruiting. Because any youthful person is going to, first thing they're going to look at is, well, now it'll be TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, website. Maybe 10 years ago, it was instantly to the website. Do you hype your players up? Do you announce signings? What do you guys do for the players? And that's something that we're lacking on. And I didn't have a recruiting tool. I had to explain what the intercounty was, and try to describe it as best as I could. And the uniqueness of our model. So listen, we play in a public park. Our fans don't pay to come to the games. So to try to keep them, okay, well, what, how do you even do that? Right. But then you explain, like, when you do go to London or you do go to Welland, you're going to play in front of 2,000 or 3,000 people sometimes because you are Toronto. And Roger alluded to those, those winning seasons. We were kind of like the Yankees. We were the enemy. And coming into somebody's ballpark, that's how you felt. Everybody wants to beat Toronto because we are the biggest city in Canada. There's no hiding. And that's to restore that sort of mentality. And it takes what we're doing to do that.
Absolutely. And Roger, I'll ask you this. Damon, I'll ask you this to close this out. Roger, I'll ask you first. When it comes to this franchise, let's say 5 years from now, what will you deem, a success in terms of what this franchise can and perhaps will look like 5 years from now?
Well, we will definitely have won again, and championships. That's why you play. That's why you play. We're here to win again. I had a long conversation with Damon about that in terms of what that requires to do, and I think part and parcel of the improved business operation will allow that to happen, because Damon brings up some great points. To attract high quality players, they need to know about the league. Players come from the Intercounty Baseball League from all over. And yeah, the veteran players know what the league is, but it's our job to properly promote through our media, multimedia channels. By the way, the YouTube broadcast we'll be doing, we will have a terrific one. You'll be a big part of that, Ryan. That's an enormous kind of thing. So 5 years from now, the Leafs will be thriving. We'll be winning. We will have the business modernized. We will still honor Jack and Lynn. They'll never be forgotten. Look, everyone says, what are you going to do to, honor Jack Dominico? Like the championship trophy is named after him and the ballpark is named after him. I don't know what else there is. Maybe we'll get a statue. But honestly, it's like they will never be forgotten. They're on the championship trophy and on the ballpark. We have to find a way to keep it going. So 5 years from now, we'll be back to being the Yankees. And I got no problems with being the Yankees. I kind of like that nobody else likes you. That's fine. Going to a ballpark and people don't like you. I know, Damon, that's one thing back in the day that it was a badge of honor. It was great. And I mentioned 19 pennants and 7 championships in, I want to get this right, just for the record, in 29 years. We should have won more. We should have won more championships, actually. We stumbled in the playoffs and we probably could have had a couple more. And when I saw the way Brantford and Barrie, you look at their 2 runs, they just ran through. Below, there were a lot of scary moments. You guys know, and especially you, Ryan. You thought it's not like it's just, they won every year and it was a foregone conclusion. They were down in series. They had to come back. There were some incredible things that happened for both those teams. Well, that's what we want to do in Toronto. So for 5 years from now, there will be no more questions in the off season. Gee, are the Toronto Maple Leafs going to be able to, continue now that the Dominicos are gone? That question will be erased in 5 years. That's probably, Ryan, the biggest thing we have to do is to ensure everybody that intercounty baseball is staying in Toronto.
Damon, I'm not sure if you can follow that up, but just 5 years from now, yeah.
Yeah, and that's well, as we said earlier, I said earlier in this podcast that the conversation with Roger was pretty easy. We're on the same page. We have to, it's not have to, we need to win. We want to win. We started on the right path last year, but those years where we won pennants and titles, yeah, he's right. We should have won more, but we're at the top of the standings, and that's where it starts. And then everything sort of filters down from there.
Absolutely. Well, Roger, Damon, this was a great podcast. I'm happy to have you guys both on for this one. I know it's not going to be the last time. So thanks for coming on today, guys. I appreciate it. And looking forward to more podcasts and interviews moving forward.
Well, Ryan, let me say, and I know Damon and you have talked more about it, but we are very delighted to have someone of your youth, your enthusiasm, your skill set, and also combined with a significant degree of experience with the intercounty as well. So you're going to be a big part of it. And one of the reasons I was enthused is rejoining the organization is that somebody like you is involved. So we appreciate you having us on, but we especially appreciate you doing so much great work for us already. And we look forward to making you a big part of our team. So we thank you too.
That was episode 3 of View from the Pits, the official podcast of the Maple Leafs, sponsored by TD Canada Trust. In the next podcast, I'll speak to Dustin Richardson, the Maple Leafs closer and former Boston Red Sox, on his time with the Maple Leafs and his time in the big leagues. Until then, thanks for listening.